Welcome to The Bo Show, the new home of faith, family, and freedom. I'm your humble host, Bo Davidson, right here on Patriot.tv. Now that the 2024 presidential election is underway, you would almost guess that this will be a battle between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. But wait, will Biden be the person to face off against Trump in November? I want to open the possibility that Biden will not be the Democratic nominee, and that at some point in the coming months, he will be replaced. The reason I'm woodshedding this idea is that Biden's poll numbers have drastically dropped. And in matchups versus Trump, in many of these polls, he is down by several points. It's hard to imagine that changing because, you see, the energy and the enthusiasm are on the side of Trump. He has 4 trials underway, which is what the Democrats' strategy has been. Keep him off the ballot and mired in legal battles. With the recent Colorado Supreme Court decision kicking Trump off the ballot, which is now making its way all the way up to the Supreme Court, we can see plain as day that the strategy has not been to bolster Joe Biden, whom, let's face it, is like Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's at this point, and just attack the common opponent, Trump. But because Trump has been able to be Teflon Don and withstand these 4 legal battles, it shows that Trump is, well, in some ways, impenetrable for the moment. And that showcase of strength makes Biden look that much more feeble and weak, stumbling around aimlessly, reading from the prompter, and making blunder after blunder. So if the current situation and upside-down numbers continue, then the smart thing for Democrats to do is run a different candidate. I contend that there is a distinct possibility that Michelle Obama will be that person. This idea was first posited to me when I interviewed Roger Stone well over a year ago.
On our side, I think Donald Trump will be the nominee.
And would beat Michelle.
I think it'll be a very competitive race. I would my money, given gas prices, given food shortages, given the foreign policy fiascos of the Democrats, my money would be on Trump.
So here's what you have to think about. Number 1, Michelle Obama is a female and she is black. She is 2 for 2 in the minority department. Second, she is the spouse of a former beloved president to Democrats, so she gets instant high marks. Third, she is the most viable and likable female the Dems have. It's not Kamala Harris, it's not Hillary Clinton, and it's not Nancy Pelosi. So Michelle is right in this sweet spot. And for those independents who swung Barack Obama's way in 2008 due to the novelty of it, some may see this as another novelty and historical moment. Believe me, some are swayed by this. And it's also about the devil you don't know. When Barack Obama ran in 2008, no one really knew who he was. He was just this charismatic guy. Michelle has that same quality. We don't know everything about her other than the fact that she was a media darling. This is unlike Hillary, whom everyone knew and many despised. She had a bad track record. And Kamala Harris does too. We have seen these word salads and a total boondoggle of a vice presidency. If she can't do that job well, she surely isn't going to be a good president. She does not have that wow factor that Michelle has, or what you might call star power. So think about this. Trump has been able to tee off on Biden because it's easy pickings. There is a ton of material. But if by the Democratic convention there's a new opponent, there's more time for Michelle to fly under the radar unscathed. She would be a formidable candidate, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You have to think about matchups, just like in football. Who matches up against whom the best? And women out there, I'm speaking to you, soccer moms and the Hallmark mom. Michelle Obama has that relational quality that makes many women feel connected to. They see her as a good mom, more than they do a person who might have terrible policies that mirror her husband. So I want to call your attention to this recent clip from an interview Michelle Obama had on MSNBC. Take a look.
Are people going to vote? And why aren't people voting? Are we too stuck to our phones? I mean, those are the things that keep me up because you don't have control over them. Mm-hmm. And you wonder, where are we in this? Where are our hearts? What's going to happen in this next election? I am terrified about what could possibly happen because our leaders matter. Who we select, who speaks for us, who holds that bully pulpit. It affects us in ways that sometimes I think people take for granted. The fact that people think that government, does it really even do anything? And I'm like, oh my God, does government do everything for us? And we cannot take this democracy for granted. And sometimes I worry that we do. Those are the things that keep me up.
So let's break this down. She says, are people going to vote? That's critical, because if you remember, it's all about how you can get people to vote. And the Dems had the edge in 2020 because of the pandemic and mail-in voting and harvesting. She's worried that Biden does not bring voters to the ballot box. That is what you call voter enthusiasm. She knows Biden doesn't have it. Then she says she is terrified about what could happen. Who holds the bully pulpit? She is right to sense that people do take democracy for granted, that they are far too removed from government. So she thinks there will be low voter turnout, especially for Biden, which paves the way for a second Trump presidency. Carefully choosing the phrase bully pulpit. And see, in this clip you can tell that there is an appeal to emotion, which has always been a strength for Democrats. But if you compare this clip with Biden's geriatric yelling and squinting, there is no equivalent. One looks in touch, one does not. The question may become, at what point do Dems decide to make this switch? Now, Michelle seems to demur when it comes to her wanting the job, but I think that all of this could be strategic. If they make this switch, guess what? There is no primary for Michelle Obama to have to endure, meaning no friendly fire. It's basically them coronating her with no blowback. A guy like Bernie Sanders would have to be miffed about this. But then again, remember this. When it comes to voting, Democrats stick together. They do not waver. In Congress, they will vote with 0 defections. So when it comes to getting behind the nominee, they will do it. So while the Lincoln Project and Pence rhinos will try to get Republicans to abstain or even switch sides, Dems will not do the same thing. And if we're going down this path, we might as well have to see that what the Trump response would be. For instance, would he pick a female VP, for instance? Would he, as Megyn Kelly has intimated, pick Nikki Haley, even though they have been staunch opponents, just for the sake of winning the race? Would Trump pick someone like his VP before they switch Biden with Obama? Could they strategically wait for Trump to blink first? Trump was strategic in his first term with Pence because Pence was the solid stalwart, the congressional steady hand. Not too much this, not too much that. But we know he ain't picking Pence this time around. So that opens this up to Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, and even Tim Scott or Kristi Noem. Noem and Haley have that gravitas to be rock-solid VPs. And remember, you need just enough steadiness to ease Republican fears and also sway the independents. So I'm imagining this scenario of Michelle Obama becoming the nominee and squaring off against Trump, who he could potentially pick as a female VP. You have to think about the debates. They'd have high ratings. They would handicap it for Michelle, don't get me wrong. She's a lawyer and her popularity would shine. So in many ways, you'd have Trump, the guy we know, big business and economy and secure border guy, versus Michelle Obama, the appeal to emotion and the novelty, whom we don't know as an executive, but more as a mom and a wife. She very well could get the voter turnout that she is terrified about. Georgia was decided by only 11,000 votes in 2020. Turnout, or in the case of mail-in ballots, harvested or otherwise, matters. The Dems' ground game has been very good. And even with the new anti-cheating laws in places like Georgia, you have to think about this. Is the cheating factor margin surmountable? And what I mean is, if the election is tight, and it would be with Michelle Obama, is the gap enough to overcome any cheating? I think versus Biden, it is right now. But I think with Michelle, it's a much tighter race, which make things like harvesting, ballot box stuffing, and 11th hour shenanigans that much more impactful. Right now, the Democrats' strategy has just been to keep Trump in the negative news, keep him mired down in legal battles and threats of jail. But if you put in Michelle Obama, you give them a shiny new toy, one that doesn't have a lot of tarnish, no stains like Kamala or Hillary. Bear in mind also that the Obamas have had their hands all over D.C. and entertainment since leaving the White House. That new film that's out right now, Leave the World Behind on Amazon, about a cyber attack, was produced by the Obamas. They already have the entertainment industry in their hands. And we know that they are media darlings. It's very clear what side the media will take in this hypothetical matchup. So while I'm not necessarily predicting a Michelle Obama candidacy, I can say we better be aware of it as a real possibility and how it changes the game. I'm Bo, and that's the show.